Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalala Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalala Pravishta Maha-Bhagavat Śrīla Gaurkishora Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nityalala Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Ki Jai Nityalala Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sharda Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandala, Gora Mandala, Vraja Mandala, Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Ki Jai, Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Srila Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura Ki Jai, Sārārtha-darśinī vritti ki jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Dandavat Pranam. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanati Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha Yang Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Tara Ajuhava Putreti tanmayataya taravobhine dostang sarvabhuta hridayam munimanatosmi Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet Shrindvatang svakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana Redantasto yabhadrani vidhunoti suhritsatam Nashta prayeshvabhadreshu nityang bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki Tavai vasmi na jivami tvaya vina Iti vigyaya radhe tvang nayamang charanantikam Bhaktya vihina aparadha lakshai Kshiptashtakamaditaranga madhe Kripa maitvam sharanam prapana vrinde namaste Charanāravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams, everybody. To all of you watching. So again, I'm pre-recording this video. For me right now, it is 5:25 p.m. And today's reading is going to be extra short because right after this, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I have a Rupa Shiksha Zoom program scheduled. And so I need to finish this all within 24 minutes. So I'm just going to, hopefully I can get it done that quickly. Let's see. So let's do a recap of the previous 10 verses. So Brahma's last prayer, he said, my dear Shri Krishna, you bestow happiness upon the lotus-like Vrishni dynasty and expands the great oceans consisting of the earth, the demigods, the Brahmins, and the cows. You dispel the dense darkness of irreligion and oppose the demons who have appeared on this earth. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, as long as this universe exists, and as long as the sun shines, I will offer my obeisances unto you. Then Shukadeva Goswami said, having thus offered his prayers, Brahma circumambulated his worshipable Lord, the unlimited personality of Godhead, 3 times, and then bowed down at his lotus feet. The appointed creator of the universe then returned to his own residence. After granting his son Brahma permission to leave, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the calves, who were still where they had been a year earlier, and brought them to the riverbank, where he had been taking his meal, and where his cowherd boyfriends remained just as before. O king, although the boys had passed an entire year apart from the Lord of their very lives, they had been covered by Lord Krishna's illusory potency, and thus considered that year merely half a moment. What indeed is not forgotten by those whose minds are bewildered by the Lord's illusory potency? By that power of Maya, this entire universe remains in perpetual bewilderment, and in this atmosphere of forgetfulness, no one can understand his own identity. The cowherd boyfriends said to Lord Krishna, you have returned so quickly. We have not even eaten one morsel in your absence. We have not eaten even one. Please come here and take your meal without distraction. Then Lord Hrishikesh, smiling, finished his lunch in the company of his cowherd friends. While they were returning from the forest to their homes in Vraj, Lord Krishna showed the cowherd boys the skin of the dead serpent Aghasura. Lord Krishna's transcendental body was decorated with peacock flowers and feathers and painted with forest minerals, and his bamboo flute loudly and festively resounded. As though he called out to his calves by name, his cowherd boyfriends purified the whole world by chanting his glories. Thus Lord Krishna entered the cow pasture of his father, Nanda Maharaj, and the sight of his beauty at once produced a great festival for the eyes of all the cowherd women. As the cowherd boys reached the village of Vraj, they sang, today Krishna saved us by killing a great serpent. Some of the boys described Krishna as the son of Yashoda, and others as the son of Nanda Maharaj. King Parikshit said, O Brahman, how could the cowherd women have developed for Krishna, someone else's son, such unprecedented pure love they never felt even for their own children? Please explain this. how did they have more love for Krishna, who's not even their son, more than they had for their own children? Please explain. Shukadev, then we ended with this verse yesterday. Shri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, for every created being, the dearmost thing is certainly his own self. The dearness of everything else, children, wealth, and so on, is due only to the dearness of the self. So now we continue. Tadrajendra yata sneha svasakatmani dehinam na tata mamata lambi putra vitta grihadishu. For this reason, O best of kings, the embodied soul is self-centered. He is more attached to his own body and own self than to his so-called possessions like children, wealth, and home. And now we're reading the Sārārtha-darśinī, commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. Commentary. The preference for one's own self over attachment to sons, wealth, or house is natural. Dehatma vadinam pungsam apirajanya sattama yatha deha priyatamas tata nahyannuye chatam. Indeed, for persons who think that the body is a self, O best of kings, those things whose importance lies only in their relationship to the body are never as dear as the body itself. Commentary. Fools consider the self to be the material body. To describe the nature of such persons, Shukadev Goswami here declares that the attachment of such persons for their own body, their own self, is more than for their sons, wealth, and house. One second, just want to drink some water. Dehopi mamata bhakchet tarhyaso natmavat priya yajjiryatyapi dehismin jivitasha baliyasi. One second. If a person comes to the stage of considering the body mine instead of me, he will certainly not consider the body as dear as his own self. After all, even as the body is growing old and useless, one's desire to continue living remains strong. Commentary. This verse explains how the materialists who affirm that the material body is the self eventually become wise. Then they also understand that the self is the soul, not the material body, and the soul is to be loved, not the material, and the soul is to be loved, not the material body. The body is dear only because of the soul. When a person who thinks, I am this body, when that person becomes a little wise, he begins to understand, I am not this body. Rather, this body is mine. At that time, the soul becomes dear to him. Then the material body is not as dear as the soul to him. This means the body is only dear because it has a relationship with the soul. The second half of this verse gives the direct experience of ordinary persons as evidence to prove this. A person may see that the death of the material body is naturally very painful. Thus he will pray, let my death not be painful. Although such a person may intelligently understand that he is actually a spirit soul and not the material body, still his yearning to remain alive in the material body may be even stronger than that knowledge. Tasmat priyatama svatma sarvesham api dehinam tarartam eva sakalang Jagad etaj characharam. Therefore, it is his own self that is most dear to every embodied living being, and it is simply for the satisfaction of this self that the whole material creation of moving and non-moving entities exists. Commentary. Thus it is proved by ordinary vision that everyone loves his own self more than he loves his children or other persons. And the word characharam, moving and non-moving entities, chara refers to wife, children, and other persons, and achara refers to non-moving possessions, such as one's clothing, home, and household paraphernalia. Krishna menam avehi tvam atmanam akilatmanam jagadithaya sopyatra dehi va bhati mayaya. You should know Krishna to be the original soul of all living entities. For the benefit of the whole universe, he has, out of his causeless mercy, appeared as an ordinary human being. He has done this by the strength of his internal potency. Commentary. This verse establishes the conclusion of the discussion. When one sees the truth, he realizes that the individual spirit soul is only an intermediate object of love. The final, highest object of love is Sri Krishna alone. Brahmā said, Krishna is the soul of the universe and the supersoul present in the hearts of all conditioned souls. A person loves children and other persons because they bring pleasure to his own material body. In the same way, a person loves his own material body because it brings pleasure to himself, the spirit soul. Also, in the same way, a person loves his true self, his spiritual identity, because he brings pleasure to the supersoul. The supersoul is Sri Krishna, whose spiritual form is perfect and complete. In Bhagavad Gita 10.42, Krishna declares, Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam ekankshena stito jagat. With a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire creation. The conclusion is that because Krishna is the highest object of love, the greatest love is felt for him. Thus, the Vraj Gopis loved Krishna even more than they loved their own sons. Furthermore, how can the conditioned souls who have no love and devotion for Krishna and whose knowledge is covered by Maya directly perceive Lord Krishna, who is revealed only by bhakti? They cannot directly perceive Krishna because such persons have given all their love to their children and others. However, because the Vrajvasis were beyond the touch of Maya and full of love for Krishna, they could directly perceive the Lord. Thus, it was natural that they showed more love for Krishna than their own sons. When Krishna appears in the world to benefit the conditioned souls, Jagadithaya, the ignorant think that he has a material body like their own, a body created by Maya. But that is only an appearance, not the fact. Sri Madhusudan Saraswati explains, Satchid Sukaika Vapusha Purushottamasya Sukaika Vapusha Purushottamasya Narayanasya Mahima Nahimanam Eti. No one can count all the glories of Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss. He also declares, Chid Anandakaram Jalad Ruchi Saram Stiti Giram Vrajastrinam Haram. Krishna charms all the women of Vraj. The Vedas declare that Krishna's form, dark like a monsoon cloud, is eternal and full of bliss. Someone may object, the Supersoul cannot be seen by the senses, but Krishna was easily seen by everyone. Therefore, Krishna cannot be the Supersoul. This verse answers, to benefit the living entities in the material world, Krishna appears by his causeless mercy and inconceivable mercy, to be an ordinary conditioned soul. Thus, Krishna is directly perceived by the senses of the conditioned souls, although in ordinary circumstances, Krishna is never perceived by the material senses. Lord Narayan says in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that though Krishna is eternally unmanifest, he becomes visible by his own desire. Otherwise, who can see him? Sanatana Goswami says that Krishna becomes manifest by his own power, but he is not revealed to the eye as an object of sense perception. Outside of Vrindavan, Krishna bestows his sweetness through his mercy to favorable persons. To inimical persons, Krishna shows his form, but devoid of sweetness for perfecting their... Sorry, let me reread that. To inimical persons, Krishna shows his form, but devoid of sweetness for perfecting their meditation involving their material senses. As a result of their meditation, Krishna bestows liberation to extinguish their offenses. This is how Krishna gives auspiciousness to them. Although Krishna covers his supreme majesty to appear like an ordinary mortal before the inhabitants of Vraj and before inimical persons, it is improper to call Krishna a jiva with a material body. Therefore, this verse describes Krishna as dehi va bhati, appearing to be a soul with a human body. Madhvacharya quotes the Varaha Purana. For the Lord, there is no difference between the body and soul, deha and dehi. Vastuto janatam atra Krishnam stansnu charishnuja Bhagavad rupam akhilam nanyad vastviha kinchana. Those in this world who understand Lord Krishna as he is, sees all things, whether stationary or moving, as manifest forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such enlightened persons recognize no reality apart from the Supreme Lord Krishna. Commentary. This verse states that after considering all the objects of love, such as sons, body, and soul, the wise conclude that Krishna is the ultimate object of love. In this verse, the word vastuta, in truth, has the sense of but finally. Therefore, those who know Krishna see him as the cause of all moving and non-moving entities. Because Krishna is the creator of all... Wait, I think this is supposed to be a comma. Therefore, those who know Krishna see him as the cause of all moving and non-moving entities, because Krishna is the creator of all, in one sense. He is the same as his creation. Okay. Verse 57. Just checking how much time has gone by. 20. Oh my God, not so much time left. Okay. Sarvesham api vastunam bhavarto bhavati stita tasyapi Bhagavan Krishna kim atar vasturupyatam. The original, unmanifested form of material nature is the source of all material things, and the source of even that subtle material nature is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. What then could one ascertain to be separate from him? Commentary. Someone may ask, why is this so? This verse answers. One second. Bhava means the unmanifested material nature, pradhan, which is the cause of the material world. Thus, bhavarto means Krishna, who is the creator of pradhan, which is itself the cause of the material world. Therefore, the verse says, Kim atar vasturupyatam, who is greater than Krishna? The word vastunam means the senses and intelligence, and bhavarto means the atma, the soul who is the cause of the senses. The cause of the soul is Krishna. What can be said to be different from Krishna? Kim atad vasturupyatam. Therefore, because he is the complete whole, Krishna is the final object of all service. Samashitaye padapallavaplavam mahatpadang punya yasho murare pavam bhudir vatsa padang param padam padang yad vipadang natesham. Oh, Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse quite a few times. I think at the beginning of this chapter, I can't remember though. For those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal is Parang Padam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. Commentary. In this way, it is proved that Sri Krishna is the final object of pure spiritual love. Only by taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet does one get liberated and finally realize him. The outstanding position of Krishna's devotee is now made clear. Devotees take shelter only of the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna, whose fame is charming, beautiful, and pleasing to the heart. Someone may ask, what is that boat like? The boat of Krishna's lotus feet gives shelter to the great devotees who have taken complete shelter. For these devotees, the ocean of the material world becomes like water in a calf's hoofprint that can be crossed without any great effort. Their goal is the supreme transcendental abode of Vaikuntha, or Sri Vrindavan. These great devotees never fall into difficulty because their minds are not attached to anything except the lotus feet of Krishna. Etat sarvamakyatam yat prishtoham iha tvaya tat komare harikritam pogande parikirtitam. Since you inquired for me, I have fully described to you the activities of Lord Hari that were performed in his 5th year, but not celebrated until his 6th. Okay, verse 60. Etat suhrid bishcharitam murarer agardanam shadvalaje manam cha vyakte tarad rupam ajorvabhishtavam shrinvangrinan eti narokilartan. Any person who hears or chants these pastimes, any person who chants or hears these pastimes Lord Murari performed with his cowherd friends, the killing of Aghasura, the taking of lunch on the forest grass, the Lord's manifestation of transcendental forms, and the wonderful prayers offered by Lord Brahmā, that person is sure to achieve all his spiritual desires. Jai Ho! I love these false shrutis, these benediction things. Commentary. The words Surhidbi Charitam, pastimes with his intimate friends, refers to pastimes like this one described in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10.12.5. Mushnanto nonya shikyadin gyatam arach chikshipu tatratyash chapunar durad dasantash chapunar dadu. All the cowherd boys used to steal one another's lunch bags. When a boy came to understand that his lunch bag had been taken away, the other boys would throw it farther away to a more distant place, and those standing there would throw it still farther. When the proprietor of the bag became disappointed, the other boys would laugh. The proprietor would cry, and then the bag would be returned. I love that verse so much that I saved that one aside also. The word vyaktetarad means supermundane or transcendental. The phrase ajorv abhishtavam can be broken down as aja, Lord Brahma, uru, elaborate, and abhishtavam, the offering of prayers. Anyone who hears or chants Brahma's comprehensive prayers about Krishna's transcendental form, his playing with the cowherd boys, the killing of Aghasura, and eating with his friends in the forest covered with lush grass, will have all his desires fulfilled. Okay, this is the last verse of the chapter. Evang viharai kumarai Kaumaram jahatur vraje Nilayanai setu bandhar markatot plavanadibhi. In this way, the boys spent their childhood in the land of Vrindavan playing hide-and-go-seek, building play bridges, jumping about like monkeys, and engaging in many other such games. Commentary. King Parikshit had asked the question, Brahmam kalantara kritam tat kalinam katam bhavet. O great sage, how could things done in the past have been described as being done in the present? That was at the end of the 12th chapter. Krishna performed the pastime of killing Aghasura during his Kaumara age. How then, during his Poganda age, beginning from the 5th year, could the boys have described this incident as having happened recently? In these chapters, that question has been answered. Now, Shukdev Goswami continues his service of narrating Krishna's pastimes. Krishna and Balaram spent their childhood secretly in Vraj, playing hide-and-seek and enacting the pastimes of other incarnations such as building the bridge to travel, journeying to Lanka, and churning the milk ocean. Iti Sārārtha-darśinyam harshinyam bhaktachetasam. Chatur dasho yam dashame sangata satam. As I, Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura, stay among Krishna's devotees, I have thus concluded this commentary on the 14th chapter of the 10th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam named Sārārtha-darśinī, which pleases Krishna's devotees. Thus ends the commentary on the 14th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam for the pleasure of the devotees in accordance with the previous acharyas. All right, so tomorrow we will hear about the killing of the Dhenuka, of the ass demon, Dhenukasura. Let's see, did I finish in time? 30 minutes? 32 minutes. Oh no, I'm 2 minutes over time. All right, so if you are joining the Rupa Shiksha program, you can just go over to Zoom right now and I'll be there waiting. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Okay, I'm just going to do a short dry dhwani because I'm already late. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Śrīla-Radha Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Jai Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Param Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Saparshad Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopigan Ki Jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Purnamasti Yogamaya Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai, Shri Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura Ki Jai, Sārārtha-darśinī Vritti Ki Jai, Shri Brahma Vimohan Lila Ki Jai, Brahma Stuti Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. Hari Bo.